I wish everyone a happy story. That year, famine was raging. My mother took me all the way to the Zhongwang Palace, a place that had no connection with us, to beg for some relief. I returned with 80 taels of silver and a cart full of food, to share with the whole village. In return, rumors about the fake aunt spread throughout the village. People in the village said that she had sacrificed her dignity in exchange for food. My father could not bear the gossip and finally had my mother killed. A rope, a thorny branch, my mother hung herself in the sky, her pupils still dim, her eyes still open in death. Later, the Trungvang Palace also collapsed. The little county princess who had once given me a golden hairpin engraved with a phoenix, now escaped from the brothel, was sold by human traffickers to the lowest, most despicable depths of life. I pretended to ransom her, to steal the last few coins from her. That kind of person, shouldn't everyone learn to survive like that? My father was the only scholar in 10 villages, usually only taught, corrected family tree, in exchange for a few coins called thanks, a few words of flattery and a half-hearted bow that meant nothing. The father did not condescend to work for a living, so the whole family relied on the mother's shoulders. The 3 cows the husband farmed, and the cloth was sewn, barely keeping up appearances for the family. However, when famine struck, the family tree and reputation were all worthless. The whole family starved to give food to father. My sister and I could only endure every day. Our stomachs were flat, only having 2 full meals. Only when father collapsed, so hungry that he could not even speak, mother could not sit still any longer. The next day, mother carefully wove 2 pieces of cloth from the last remaining thread, then held my hand and walked out the door. She said that in her cousin's house there was a lady who was a housekeeper in the royal palace, and she wanted to go and claim her relatives. My father was so hungry that his belly skin was sticking to his back, but he still tried to blame his mother, saying that she was still poor and humble enough to beg for money. What dignity was there? The sage taught that a gentleman maintains his virtue when he is poor, a petty person depraved when he is in dire straits, and his poor fate cannot be shaken. Mother just sighed silently, placing 4 cakes of wild grass in his hand. Father continued, if she insisted on leaving, she must remember to return soon. Do not dream of glory and wealth that does not belong to her. On the way to the royal palace in Jingzhou, the scene was filled with death and despair. People were wandering, starving to death, lying all over the fields. Floods washed away all the crops, and the royal court was gathering food to prepare for the war with the Dat army. When my mother and I arrived at the Trungvang Palace, it appeared like a dream, incredibly splendid. Even the tiles on the roof shone with a brilliant golden color. The wealth and nobility of this place only made me and my mother feel more lowly than ever. My mother did not expect that the lady would quickly invite us in with such a polite attitude. She quickly put on 2 of the most carefully woven cloths. The old lady glanced at our torn clothes, then gave mother a tael of silver and 10 coins. Mother was so moved that she knelt down and kowtowed to express her gratitude. As for me, I unconsciously walked out into the courtyard. There are lush trees here, the floor tiles are sparkling with a golden color. Each tile exudes a rare luxury. The image of whiteness that one would never dare to imagine even in a dream. And in that splendid brocade scene, one sees a million buffaloes. She wore a dress with sparkling gold threads, sat on a chair, and looked like a beautiful jade doll carved by the hands of a god. Under her eyes was a small red mole like a gem. 4 female servants stood around to serve her, sometimes bringing her exquisite tea and cakes, sometimes bringing her cages of insects for her to entertain herself. Her eyes fell on me, wide in the valley, asking, "Where did you come from?" Outside, her pupils suddenly lit up. What did it look like outside? I wanted to say that outside was filled with murder and endless wailing. The hungry say, he, and new people lay scattered like weeds in the middle of a storm. But then I just said, outside there were mountains, in the mountains there were wild bears, there were wild fruits. She excitedly took my hand and pulled me into the room, telling me what happened. She led me into a dazzling fairyland. I told her about the harrow, about farming, about cows, about catching cicadas. I even rolled on the ground for her to see. She laughed so hard she fell down and kept asking what happened next. After that, I almost starved to death, and now I am standing here in front of her. Then a lady dressed up in gorgeous makeup walked in. She was Mrs. Kyo Ni. She praised me for making her Chow Ni laugh so much. She was really smart and kind. Right there, she rewarded my mother with 80 taels of silver. My mother was so happy that she fainted immediately. When the lady heard that mother had fainted from hunger, she said softly, "How pitiful." Then she used 4 servants to transport a cart of food to our house. I was so happy that I fainted too. When I woke up, I saw tears still on True Man Chow's face. She thought I was dead, but when she saw me alive she burst into laughter, her laughter as clear as the morning sun, turning her tears into a bright smile. I was both confused and scared. A small lowly life like mine was being cared for like this. If my lowly life was valued by others, then what were those starving people lying around out there that no one cared about? Before leaving, True Man Chow gave me a golden phoenix needle, as exquisite and precious as herself. "What is your name?" She looked at me with pleading eyes. "When will you come again?" "My name is Oni, which means little worm," I replied, clutching the coins in my hand, her heart not knowing what to do. "If you come looking for me again, I have many good things, all of which I will give to you." She is so generous. I wanted to touch the hem of her clothes, but those dazzlingly shiny threads made me hesitate. The food cart was pulled back to our house, and the servants of the Zhongwang Palace led us back and forth, telling us not to let this matter out. Your heart is the most terrifying thing. Smoke began to rise from the kitchen for the first time in many days of silence. The very next day, an old lady who was a distant relative, with her dying grandchild in tow, came to our door crying and begging. My father ate a bowl of rice and leisurely walked out to greet her. The old lady was so thin that she was pale. She fell to the ground sobbing, pointing at the child beside her who was about to stop breathing. My father, with the appearance of a patriotic scholar, with tears in his eyes, looked at the suffering of his old mother and child, then looked up at the devastated mountains and rivers. He sighed. When poor he would take care of himself, when successful he would help others. "Madam, should we share this food with the villagers?" Whenever he spoke, my mother always nodded in agreement. She loved the literary talent that flowed from his mouth, loved the ambition to save lives and help others that he cherished, and loved the integrity and kindness of a follower of the sages that he wholeheartedly preserved. But she did not know that love would cost her her life. I saw more than half of the food trucks being dragged away from the house. Hungry people, dizzy and in need, surrounded us like ants looking for a way to survive. They knelt down and kowtowed, constantly shouting that our father was a great benevolent king. But half a cart of food was not enough to eat. The miserable villagers continued to kneel before our house, crying and begging. My father told my mother to exchange the remaining silver for more food. My mother hesitated a bit. Human life is the most important thing. The people are suffering. My father sighed, using his hand to cover his tears. Amidst the shouts of "Great King, great benevolence," the 80 taels of silver that mother had brought back had been spent. But then from every corner of the street, a story began to spread. That the food cart that mother had brought back was bought with her own body. I went to the butcher's house to buy some meat scraps, and heard them discussing very seriously. What kind of place is the royal palace? How can they casually give 80 taels of silver to a country woman? That's right, 80 taels of silver. A royal palace would have to eat cheaply for a long time. I heard that the steward of the central royal palace is famous for being lustful, and the prince's son brought back that much silver and food from our western Han. Who knows how much he has been played by the Han? Just thinking about eating that filthy food, I despise it to the bone. How humiliating. At that time I was kneeling and begging the prince for some, knowing that I would have starved to death. Look at her appearance. It's as if we owe her a debt of gratitude. Every time we see her we have to kneel. My mother was beautiful. Even though her hands were rough from weaving, her cheeks were bent from farming, and her face was etched with the marks of wind and bone, she was still beautiful. In their eyes, a peasant woman with even a little bit of my mother's beauty, everything she achieved must have been exchanged with the only tool a woman can have. I rushed out and shouted at them, "You ate our food to stay alive, and now you repay kindness with hatred. Are you still human?" Little Inger, I didn't make this up. Lu Tusher laughed. Everyone said the same thing. Besides, without your food we can still survive. Every household had some food left in reserve, and no one saved anyone here. They could not repay a great favor, so they used hatred to repay it. The rumor reached my father, but he pretended not to hear it, but secretly asked me, "Oh Ni, tell me the truth. Where did your mother get all the silver she brought back? I shouted angrily, tears hidden in my eyes. 1,000,000 buffalo lives were given to us. Another month passed, and my mother's belly became more and more obvious. By the time she gave birth, her pregnancy had not even been 10 months. Rumors spread like wildfire in dry grass. People whispered that the child in my mother's womb was the illegitimate son of the Trung Vong Palace's steward. My father, once a respected scholar, was now known as a cuckold. After giving birth, my mother collapsed due to her weak body and the malicious rumors that pierced her heart. The bank unable to get out of bed. My little brother, perhaps because he was born prematurely, was weaker than other children and often sick. That day the boy had a high fever. His whole body was burning like fire. My mother was hoarse, calling out for my father. At that moment, the village scholar came to see my father to discuss important national affairs, conveniently mentioning the rumors that had spread everywhere. Starving to death is a small matter, losing one's integrity is a big one. The graduate said solemnly, the honor of a scholar is greater than the heavens. The war in Phuong Bac is about to end, the situation is gradually stabilizing, and the exams are about to resume. This is the person's chosen disciple and ambition. The rumors are very scary, but she is just a woman. When his mother dragged her frail body to find his father, he was considering writing a letter of love. My mother immediately recognized the words on the paper. Her body felt limp, her whole body was hollow. Your Majesty, you are very good, truly a righteous and noble person. My father frowned. I know she has suffered, but there are things that a gentleman should and should not do. I would rather let the whole family starve than let her do such an immoral thing. My mother looked at him, burst out laughing and then cried, crying and punching her chest, as if trying to tear the pain out. My little brother had a high fever that he could barely move, but there was not a single coin left in the house. I took out the golden phoenix needle that I always kept with me and gave it to my mother to invite a doctor. My father said even though I was only a child I already knew how to hide things. My mind was heavy. I was indeed just like my mother. I didn't understand what hiding and scheming were. I just wanted to keep the needle that 1,000,000 buffalo lives gave me, because if my father found out, he would also turn it into something to exchange for his reputation. The doctor came and prescribed medicine for my little brother, but said he would not survive. My mother held him in her arms, pacing back and forth, crying and praying. In the middle of the night, my little brother died. In the blink of an eye, my mother seemed to have aged a dozen years, and even panicked, staggering out of the yard. I anxiously ran after my mother. My 6-year-old sister woke up and saw no one beside her. Thinking that she had been abandoned, she cried out in heart-wrenching cries, her childish cries echoing throughout the yard. But no matter how hard my sister and I tried, we couldn't hold on to our mother. She sacrificed everything for my father, only to have my heart broken in return. My brother's death took away her soul and will. Day after day she sank into grief, wandering around the riverbank. I stayed by my mother's side, comforting her and advising her day and night. But my mother could neither see nor hear me. I was both sad and confused. Why couldn't my mother turn back to look at me and my little sister? I was both heartbroken and scared. Why couldn't my mother stay by my little sister's side? I will grow up, I will love her, I will protect her. If there is no father, then let him use and discard what he wants. Apart from reciting a few lines of poetry, our father cannot do anything. The land is plowed by mother, the cloth is woven by mother, the money is earned by mother, and we are fed by mother. She was so strong she could do anything. She was so talented that no one could compare. But then one morning when I wasn't looking at her, she hung herself on the porch, her body swinging in the wind. Her eyes were wide open, staring at everyone around her. On the table, she left a piece of paper with some crooked words, I am innocent. My father sighed. Why did he have to torture himself like this? Just shed a few tears. The villagers gossiped that mother committed suicide because of losing face, because of her age. I silently watched mother being buried in a fragile coffin. Her once strong body, her once gentle face, now lay cold on the ground. No one cared. She fell from this world as if she had never existed. The death of my mother did not leave any ripples in my father's heart. It only made him feel inconvenient when he asked me to cook, when the fields were barren or when he had no more clothes to wear. His eyes were shining with passion, lost in dreams of fame and fortune. He could only concentrate on reading books because a Han man must be loyal to his country, must dedicate himself to the country. Our house was abandoned, while the villagers were having a bumper crop. When the harvest season came, I sat on the bank, looking at the scattered rice stalks on my land. I heard the robbers laughing. "Little Own, this year our family only has a few stalks of rice. Be careful, you might starve to death." My little sister was so hungry that she cried out. I patted her back, just like how my mother used to comfort me. In the end, my father could not wait for the autumn exams that he had dreamed of. What he waited for was the sound of the clan's iron hooves. The army temporarily stopped its attack not because of peace negotiations, but to gather the tribe to prepare for a larger-scale attack. The imperial court was defeated, the king and lords fled to the south, leaving the people in chaos. That day, I took my little sister up the mountain to find the fruit of the teachings. The sound of horses' hooves echoed loudly, the sound of iron clanging. In the blink of an eye, more than a dozen cavalrymen from the Dat clan appeared right in front of me. I quickly pushed my little sister into a nearby mountain cave and covered her with dry grass. The leader spoke broken Mandarin, brandishing his long sword, pointing it at my neck, his voice demanding, "Kid, where is the food?" Looking at those soldiers that I had heard rumors of having 3 heads and 6 arms, killing without blinking an eye, I did not cry, nor did I tremble. When his sword almost pierced my chest, I only raised my head, smiling innocently. "We know where the food is. Lots of it." The tribe's horsemen rode into the village, just as the villagers were rejoicing over the bountiful harvest. I should have had a bountiful harvest like that. I was thrown to the ground by the soldiers, rolled a few times, and a soldier behind me swung his long sword and stabbed straight at me but missed. I used to have a mother. I saw the butcher rushing out with a butcher knife, but was immediately pierced by a warrior's long sword, lifted up in the air like a wet pig. A gossipy old woman who used to eat our food, was now cut in half right in front of me. Fresh colors splattered everywhere, blooming like a bright red flower. That flower petal, that youth, soaked my whole body. The villagers who had received my mother's kindness, then later uttered cruel and flattering words, were now being slaughtered without mercy. Their limp bodies fell like chopped vegetables. I lay face down on the ground, witnessing everything, but there was no satisfaction in my heart. Instead, an indescribable sadness filled my heart, as if something in my body that was still alive had now rotted and decayed. I clutched my throat, unable to breathe, vomiting continuously into a pool of thick blood. Suddenly, I heard my father pleading. "Our family really has no food left. I know how to write. I will definitely be useful to you." I raised my head and saw my father, who had suffered several slashes, without any strength left. All his integrity had melted away into weak prose. His passion for learning was now reduced to a trembling plea, and the great effort to save the country and help the people could not overcome the act of kneeling and kowtowing. He often recited, "The country is lost, the mountains and rivers still remain, youth is here, and the grass and trees are green again." He often chanted, wishing to repay his country with this body, not hoping to be born in the Jade Realm. Ha! I laughed out loud. We, father and son, ha! The Dat clan urged their horses to retreat. My father was overjoyed and quickly bowed his head in gratitude. But as he stood up, a tribal man suddenly pulled the reins tight. The war horse neighed in pain. Now its 2 front legs were raised high, stomping hard on my father's chest, completely crushing his chest. The tribal man laughed out loud, then pulled up an old woman who was still gasping for breath on the ground, tied her to the horse's tail and spurred the horse into a gallop. The human world is now hell, full of demons, and I am one of them. The sound of horse hooves rang out again. The army came to the rescue. In just a moment, more than 10 people who had approached had become ghosts under the painful tongue. The black-clothed leader got off his horse and bent down to help me up. "Little sister, it's okay now." He smiled, his eyes gentle, but just now, he had ordered the painful area to be cut off the heads of several Dat people in front of his eyes. His name was Dubai. He said that 100,000 cavalrymen from the Dat clan had surrounded Yun Chang. The Dat clan's great king was killed by the general Shou Chang, who had his head cut off with one painful blow and hung it on the city gate. He said that the Dat clan had sworn to destroy Yun Chang to take revenge, and had been looting everywhere, and that Yun Chang was now in danger. He said he had gathered 3,000 soldiers to clear the trash and prepared to go to Van Ton to support him. I don't know anything about military, but I know how to calculate. 3,000 against 100,000, wouldn't they definitely die? He smiled. I wondered why he could still smile. I smiled because I was doing what I should do, walking the path I should take. If I didn't do it, who would? If I didn't die, who would? He stopped and looked up at the sky, smiled and said calmly, "Time still doesn't belong to Dai Yuyan. Little girl, have you ever heard of the saying when your time is up? But I can't let the Dat clan easily trample on my mountains and rivers and massacre my people. Dai Yuyan's blood debt is as high as a mountain. Isn't there anyone who can stand up and claim it back?" I remember my father often chanted, even though he knew he couldn't do it, he still did it. I shrank back, trembling, asking if I didn't defeat the army, then wouldn't it be worth dying? He smiled again. Rules are to restrain oneself. In times of chaos, the people are already suffering. Men have a hard time living. How can one make things difficult for a little girl like you? He patted my head. Live well. Living is the best thing in this world. Do Bai Yi sent someone to take me to Xiaomui to Jingzhou. I said I still had relatives there. However, the once magnificent and splendid Zhongwang Palace was now just a pile of ruins. The ruined walls seemed to be crying for the past glory. A man with a crooked neck sitting by the roadside leaned over and asked, "Who are you looking for, son?" I pretended to smile innocently, just passing by. I had never seen a house this big. Or before it collapsed, it was even more magnificent. The Trung King was beheaded by the Dat army. His entire family was confiscated. Some died, some fled. Now no one is here. Did he die fighting against the Dat army? I asked. Fighting against what? He was the greatest traitor, colluding with the Dat army. I heard that I followed the wrong person. After the death of the great king, their fifth prince took power and killed all those who did not support him. I do not understand politics or the times. I do not understand the so-called return of the country, because this country has never belonged to me. I am a tiny speck of dust, but it turns out that even high and mighty figures like the Trungvang Palace will one day collapse and disappear into thin air. Why, whether people in heaven or on earth, must struggle for a vague path of life, but still cannot find a way out. I ask, where are the millions of lives? I told you it is better to keep the few safe than the many. But I heard that Mrs. Chow San, their kindest person, died a horrible death, humiliated in the middle of the street, to the point where she was unrecognizable. The crooked-necked man spoke as he slowly followed us to the side of the road. I realized something was wrong, but it was too late. A group of men surrounded us. The crooked-necked man smiled sinisterly, revealing his true face. The older one was sold to a brothel, able to receive guests immediately. The younger one was sold to a royal house. 2 sacks were placed over our heads. I cried out loudly, but received a strong punch to the face. My eyes went dark, completely losing consciousness. When I woke up, I found myself lying in a firewood storage room. A thick-faced, fake woman opened my mouth to see my teeth, then slapped my cheek. Not a beauty, but still able to serve the slaves and poor villagers. I grabbed her shirt and asked firmly, "Where is my nose?" Immediately, I received a strong slap on the face. My mouth filled with the smell of my mother and the bank. She turned around and ordered, according to the rules, to hang him up, to beat him once a day, and to give him a sip of water every 3 days, so that he would remember it for the rest of his life. Hunger and thirst were old friends, but the beatings were the most unbearable pain. 3 days, night and day. I don't know when this pain will end. On the 3rd day, the woman asked me, "Do you know what to do?" I crawled little by little to her, my dry lips unable to make any sound, only weak grunting sounds. I obeyed. She told me, "Where is my sister?" She angrily shouted, "Continued to beat me." "Okay, big sister, but let me go with this little girl. How much did you buy her for? I will return the money to you." An old lady who still retained her charm stood beside her and spoke. Like grandma, suddenly doing good deeds to bring suffering upon herself, the other woman snapped. "Older sister, give me some face." Like grandma smiled, saying, "I found this girl honest, wanted to bring her home as a friend. Look at her, she looks just like my lost daughter." The person who took me away was Mrs. New, a madam, a professional prostitute. She waited, was single, and numb on the battlefield, and her daughter starved to death during the Great Famine. As if my grandmother had brought me back to the courtyard, arranged me in a room on the side, and then cooked me a bowl of hot noodles. As if in a dream, I pinched my thigh so hard that it hurt. I happily jumped down, prostrated myself before her, kowtowed repeatedly, and promised that I would definitely repay her. As my grandmother helped me find out, my sister was sold into the house of a magistrate who was serving as the imperial family's court clerk. This official was originally a grand scholar of the Dai Yuan dynasty, but when Jingzhou fell, he surrendered to the Du clan and was given high positions. I went to investigate, but they seized my sister's personal property, declaring that if they wanted to release her, the only way was to carry her out of the house. My sister held out her red hands from washing clothes, pulled me and smiled brightly. Sister, it's okay. Now I have new clothes to wear, I get to eat every day, and my master doesn't hit me. She hugged me. Sister, I'm living a better life than you. You have to endure me well. Before I could say a few words, the young servant in the mansion scolded me for being lazy. The young lady had no tea to drink. He was embarrassed, smiled at me, took off the new flower pin on his head and stuffed it into my hand, then hurriedly went inside, his mouth constantly answering falsehoods. I looked at my little sister. In a moment she had truly grown up. After that, I followed the old lady, watching her maneuver through the hidden affairs of society, arranging shady relationships and transactions that could not be made public. She relied on her boneless tongue and methods of intimidation and seduction to make young women and women who were noticed, either half-believing or steadfast, and finally willingly step into men's beds. The old lady taught me how to talk, how to handle work, and how to read other people's faces. During the day, she would scold me severely for being slow in my work, but at night she would carefully cover me with the blanket and blow out the oil lamp. Arya, you must never show compassion. She reminded me so much that people can only care for themselves. She called me Arya many times. I became her Arya. I used my mother's weaving technique to make her a sachet, but it was so ugly that no one could bear to look at it. She laughed, scolded me for being ugly, then held my hand and taught me how to behave. However, she always carried that ugly scented bag with her. In these chaotic times, I had an elder to rely on, and occasionally got to see my sister. In my heart, I only wished that this peace would last a little longer. Spring has come and two big things have happened. The first big thing, after the Dat clan army lost half of its troops, they finally broke into Van Ton. To vent their anger, they massacred 3,000 soldiers and civilians in the city, causing the water to flow into a river, turning every corner of the street red. Immediately after that, the Dao army continuously captured more than 10 other cities, and the Dai Yuan court continued to flee to the south. When Mrs. New recounted this story, I was sitting under the oil lamp, concentrating as usual. When I came to, the long needle had pricked my finger and a small drop of blood oozed out. Is there no one left alive? I asked. Old Lady New replied that she heard that the famous young general, Du Bai, led an army to raid the ships of the Dat clan, and that his life or death was unknown. But when would the war end? The second big thing was that the Dat clan had established its own court, named the country Yong, and established its capital in Jingzhou, opposing the Dat clan from the north to the south. I heard that this new court divides the people into 3 classes. The Juanda are the first class, the Hu and Jiang people are the second class, and we, the people of Dayuan, are the third class, the lowest class. I want to ask the new emperor of the Dat people, why are we the lowest class? Why are we always considered inferior? I came to find Xiaomu, and out of 10 times I only met her once, but we were already very satisfied. The old man secretly feared that it would be difficult to be at peace. Chu Mui said that because he had mistakenly advised the imperial court to stop the massacre, he was thrown into prison. The second young lady said that if she had known that today would come, she would have followed the imperial court to the south, or died on the battlefield, rather than hesitate and become a laughing stock. Xiao Mui said that the second young lady was a very good person. Seeing that she was kind and gentle, she taught her to read and write and even brought her home to be her close concubine. Xiao Mui also said that the second young lady had promised to find a way to let her out. Now she knows more principles than I do, and speaks clearly and coherently. I am truly very happy. After the grand scholar was imprisoned, one day, his familiar servant, Lu Er, brought along a Dat clan butler to find Madame New. They wanted her to be a matchmaker to take possession of a woman. The person they were targeting was the second young lady of the Tam family. The butler sneered, "My master is the noble Jun Dat. Letting him play with a girl from the secret family is already giving him a lot of face. This dog from the secret family really doesn't know what's good for him. If it weren't for His Majesty's bamboo stick and the other princes supervising, my master would have finished playing long ago and thrown her into the military camp. The old lady knew, and that slave immediately started to flatter and flatter, their hearts praising that steward to the sky. The steward drank too much and started to talk nonsense. His Majesty was truly foolish, actually favoring those who acted like pigs saved by the Grand Palace, and even demanded to organize a beauty pageant to bring the women of the Grand Palace in with them. We worked so hard to defeat Jiangshan just for him to do this stupid thing? Grandma Nu couldn't refuse, so she took me to the Tam family's house. The second young lady Tam had beautiful skin like a painting, fragile like a flower swaying in the wind. The whole room smelled of medicine. Even if Grandma Nu was noble, she would analyze the pros and cons of not agreeing. She would face disaster. The second young lady silently said calmly that her eldest brother died in Vantan as a hero, and her father followed the army as a coward. Being a hero means not being able to live. Being a coward means living. Such a simple principle, everyone understands it. She smiled slightly, looked at Grandma Nu, slowly took out a banknote, and softly thanked her for her kindness. I will stay here and wait for the disaster to strike. Grandma Nu took the banknote, and as she walked, she cursed at the girls who had read until they were confused, both stupid and foolish. What is there to be grateful for? What the hell is kindness? In this damn world, what is good? After scolding all the way, she suddenly burst into tears. Her cries shook the heavens and the earth, then scolded her son who died on the battlefield for being just as stupid, reading books until his mind was confused. That damn son said something about the country must be protected. Men must be loyal. But did he think about his old mother at home? She only wanted her son's life, only wanted her son's life. After walking down the street, Mrs. Nu suddenly pulled my hand and turned back to the house. Miss, you still have a way to live. With the terrifying acumen of someone who had struggled to survive in the lower class, Madame Nu looked straight at the second young lady of the secret family, and spoke a noble name that absolutely did not belong to her humble life. The path of life for her was that of their emperor. The second young lady of the secret family participated in the imperial examination and was chosen to enter the palace. That day, I had just gone to visit my sister when I heard the news that the Grand Scholar had been released and that the second miss had also passed the imperial examination. I skipped home, but from afar I saw a crowd gathered at the end of the street, everyone whispering about something terrible. My heart sank. An ominous premonition came over me. I quickly pushed through the crowd and saw a few of the tribesmen beating a bloody object lying on the ground. When my eyes fell on the bloody sachet lying beside me, I felt as if I had been hit hard in the head with a hammer. My mind went blank. I rushed into the crowd like a madman. Go away, I cried out in the collapse. Then the sticks fell on me. I felt no pain, only trembled, staring at the face of Mrs. Nu in the mud, her shirt blurred. I stared at her, my heart numb. The sun was hot but no tears could fall. It was not until the magistrate arrived, the soldiers laughed loudly and left, that I escaped death. After preparing a proper ceremony for Madame Nu, I went to find the servant in the brothel that Madame Nu was close to and gave him the gift she had not yet sent. Lu Er and Madame Nu had loved each other for a long time, but both of them felt inferior and did not dare to speak up. He accepted the hat that Mrs. Nu had made herself, his eyes red, saying that someone had taken care of her, but she didn't support the effort of raising someone. It was me, I was the one who brought disaster upon her. When I left the door, I happened to see the Dat clan butler holding a chicken, showing off and leading a group of people towards me. Little boy, I'm looking for someone. He laughed heartily, his face full of eloquence. I beat someone to death, and the other prince insisted on handling it according to his rules, so I'm here to compensate for that fake woman's life. Here, killing a captain only requires a chicken as compensation. He laughed loudly, stuffing the still warm hen into my arms. The hen clucked in my arms, as if laughing and crying at the same time. That was the price of old Lady Nu's life. The Dat clan's butler continued to laugh, his laughter becoming more vicious and cold. Don't be too happy, there's still one more life, I'll pay first. Before I could understand, Lu Er suddenly rushed forward like an arrow, holding the butler's leg tightly, crying loudly and pleading. Sir, he is just a child, please spare his life. I will prepare something better for you. Seeing the butler hesitate, Lu Er panicked without thinking. He pointed at the only good thing that could satisfy him. Guaranteed to satisfy you, sir. Look, sir. He quickly opened the door to the room, revealing a young girl tied up on the bed, her beauty heartbreaking. The whole person trembled, his mind was dizzy, he could not believe his eyes. What he saw was True Meng Chao. True Meng Chao was now grown up, beautiful like a fairy. Under his eyes was still a red mole like blood jade. The brothel slave smiled flatteringly. She had not been taught well yet. After she got up, the master would be the first to taste this flavor. The Du Clan butler left. True Meng Chao was tied up, tears streaming down her face, struggling to ask me for help, her mouth only making muffled sounds. I looked straight into her pleading eyes, that image gradually blending with the smile from years ago, when she gave me the phoenix needle. But then everything blurred. I slowly backed away, turned around and left. When I returned to Madame Nu's courtyard, the world seemed to have become empty. That day, the second young lady of the family had secretly said that the dynasty had collapsed. There was no way to save the situation, only the smallest things could be saved. But I did not understand those words, nor did I understand the rise and fall of a dynasty. I don't have the wisdom to see far, I only see lowly people like us growing up like wheat, then falling down like wheat being harvested, unable to protect ourselves. I tightly hold the little leg that Grandma Nu sewed for me. In the midst of that vast and empty sky and earth, I cannot shed a single tear. It turned out that my heart was as hard as stone. Until 3 days later, before going to bed, I suddenly blurted out, "Grandma Nu, tomorrow I want to eat sugar cake." The words that came out made my whole body stiffen, as if I had just woken up from a dream. A sharp pain spread throughout my body, like a knife piercing every fiber of my being. Tears streamed down my face, and I cried so hard that I thought I was going to die. Not long after, I finally brought my little sister home. Before entering the palace, the second young lady of the Shen family gave my little sister a contract to sell her body. After many days of delay, my little sister was finally released, but not long after, she had a high fever. Her body was covered with purple and red scars. The doctor said that due to taking too many harsh drugs, her body was ruined. There was no way to save her. Finally, my little sister told the truth. The mistress of the Shen family was dissatisfied with the second young lady being chosen to enter the palace and took her anger out on her. She ordered her servants to torture my little sister, forcing her to drink hundreds of poisonous and incompatible medicines. I did not believe that there was no way to save her, so I went everywhere to find a famous doctor, sold all the property and jewelry that the old lady had left behind, until there was nothing left to sell. But how can I keep my little sister, my only relative? At the brothel, Lu Er advised me that even if I were to keep her in the brothel with her beauty, she would only be worth a few coins. Xiaoyinger, listen to me, let her go. If I let my little sister go, where will I go? That little green-haired girl said she had money and begged me to help her escape. Who would believe it? She was disobedient and was taught to the point of being tied to the bed all night. She couldn't stand it and was told nonsense. But who knows, maybe it's true. Just looking at her, you can tell she's a rich young lady. She must have hidden some money to protect her life. As I passed by the woodshed, I heard the servants talking. Luke Loan is what they call Tu Meng Chao. When no one was paying attention, I entered her room, opened the door and went straight to the point. I came to ransom you out. Do you have money? I will use it to bribe the madam. She looked at me, her eyes filled with suspicion and caution. I will continue. I am Little Oni, do you remember? Little Meng Chao was suddenly overjoyed, tears falling. He hugged me and cried, recounting his grievances. Then from somewhere she took out 3 shining golden gems. For you, Little Oni, you will take me out, right? Her beautiful eyes filled with hope looked at me. I heard something in my heart break, the pain spread endlessly. I snatched the pearls from her hand, smiled at her viciously, just fooling her. Her smile froze as if her whole body was about to break. I said, in this situation, why is the young lady still so naive and foolish, trusting people so easily? Her tears flowed, as if she was laughing at herself. If she needed it, then just take it. I can't keep it anyway. Giving it to you is better than falling into someone else's hands. True Man Chao is always so generous. I turned around and left. Xiao Inger, you suddenly called me back. Your voice was so fragile it seemed like it could disappear in the wind. Will you come visit me again? I held her back, didn't turn around and didn't answer. The golden gems were exchanged for medicine to save my little sister's life, helping her wake up from her coma. She only had a little bit of breath left, grabbed my hand and weakly said, "Big sister, I'm in pain." I pressed my cold face against it, which was burning hot. Tears silently fell down its face. "Don't be afraid, a sister is here." It whispered, "A sister, let me go, I miss mother already." I hid my little sister beside me like a grandmother, their two small graves quietly lying next to each other. I used to think that lack of food and clothing was the ultimate suffering of humanity, but it turns out that birth and death are the things that never let people go. I looked up at the sky, the harsh sunlight shone, but could not penetrate any of the sufferings of the world. The grand candle lighting ceremony marking the blossoming of Zhao Manzhou became a solemn event. That night, I saw the Bee clan steward carrying her into the bridal chamber. Her eyes were downcast, looking like a beautiful corpse that was close to death. Not long after, a loud scream rang out in the brothel, followed by the man's curses, painful and angry screams. I quickly ran in through the small passage in the room, and saw Zhao Manzhou using the hook of the white copper curtain to stab the De clan's butler in the eye. The butler grabbed her by the neck and ran out in a panic, blood pouring from her eye sockets. I quietly approached him from behind, took out the scissors hidden in my hand, and with all my strength stabbed them hard into his back, then pulled them out of his body. The person holding the scissors, as if all the pain, anger, and hatred had gathered there, crazily stabbed into his left chest. Zhao Manzhou rushed forward to pull me back, but I bit my lips until they bled, half conscious and half crazy, just like when they killed me like an old lady. I stabbed him in the neck again and again without stopping. Blood and flesh splattered all over my face. In the chaos, I burst out laughing like a madman. Zhao Manzhou grabbed my hand. "Little Nhi, let's go." Only when Lu Er ran in and pulled me away did Zhao let go. Lu Er hid Zhao Manzhou and me in a large sewage tank on the carriage and left the city. "Little Nhi, run away. The people you killed were optimistic about the army. You will not survive. Go south to Nanyan." I came back to my senses, worriedly said, "Come with us. We have already caused people to die." Lu Er laughed. "I have done many things against my conscience. I cannot escape no matter how long I live. Now I don't want to run away anymore. I remember, like my grandmother, there are many things I want to say to her. I can't wait any longer." In the stinking sewage tank, True Manchao gently touched my arm. She said, "Little Nhi, you are really strong, really amazing." I replied, "You don't blame me for burning you. You saved me, there is no burning me." She smiled innocently, like a young lady who never held grudges. "I don't intend to save you, I just want to kill that traitor to get revenge," I said coldly. She happily replied, "I don't care, you saved me anyway." Then she opened her arms to hug me, stirring the stinking wastewater in the tank, causing the stench to splash all over my face. I snapped, "Speak properly, stop stirring." But she continued, "I knew it, she saw me let the sky." And numb but not willing to give in, so she came to kill him. I knew that night the one who untied the rope for me was you. I was silent, unable to refute. She gently held my hand. "Little Nhi, my whole family is dead, I want to die too. But with her by my side I feel a little happy." I looked at her for a long time, then slowly said, "You don't look like you did when you were little anymore." "Not at all. When you were little you were like a shiny lump of gold. I didn't even dare to touch you. I certainly never thought that one day I would be soaking in a barrel of stinking sewage with the princess." We both burst out laughing and crying. The convoy was a wealthy family disguised as refugees, but was attacked by bandits on the way and killed without waiting for anyone. As the bandits rummaged through the mess, we took a deep breath, held our breath and dove deep into the sewage tank. The stench made them sick, and then they dragged the carts of gold and silver away. After crawling out of the sewage tank, we continued south, but everywhere was still misery. Under the Dai Vin court of Kwanda, the people of Dai Yuyan were treated like pigs and were tortured and massacred. Under the Dai Yuyan court, the taxes and the soldiers became increasingly strict, the army was corrupt, and many families had no men left because they had all died on the battlefield. When we were so hungry that we were about to die, I saw with my own eyes the Manchu pillar using a piece of broken porcelain to cut into his flesh and dig out 2 golden pearls. She groaned in pain, and proudly handed me the pearls that stained a piece of clothing that my mother had sewn onto me. How is it, isn't it amazing? Let's go in exchange for food. Thanks to the pearls, tree bark and mixed food, we finally arrived at the capital of Jianzhou of Nanyuan. In Qianchao, everyone knows about Du Bok Wai. General Du is a martial arts expert. He defeated the Datok army several times thanks to that day. Who doesn't know his name? Even though he is the noble son of the old prime minister's mansion, General Du is not like other soldiers. I met Du Bok Wai again in a simple house of the general's mansion. He was much thinner and darker, and his usual calm smile was rarely seen. Little girl, are you still alive? He was about to reach out and stroke my head but stopped halfway. I asked to stay and be a maid in Du Baiyi's mansion. He firmly refused, wanting to push me to a sad shop. But I pretended not to hear, just threw his black blanket as dull as stone into the firewood room, then took his torn undershirt to the kitchen. Hey, don't throw it anymore, I'm embarrassed. Oh my God, I can still wear those shoes. He followed behind me helplessly, fixing his hair, trying to look extremely patient. Only later did I find out that he whipped and scolded people almost every night. I presented the cost of building warships and making goose cannons, but His Majesty took the money to celebrate the imperial concubine's birthday. This year, there is no way to provide food and warm winter clothes for the soldiers. The Minister of Revenue is always playing tricks and forcing me to go and beg that damned old man Chu Kuang. The adjutant advised, young master, General Chu Kuang hates you because last time you scolded him in front of everyone for not being able to support Tran Kuoktsong. Now he thinks that you are on Tran Kuoktsong's side, while he supports the second prince of the imperial concubine. These two sides have long considered each other enemies. Believe it or not, even if the army held a steel knife to their necks, they would only spit at each other. Du Bai almost threw his head back and laughed loudly, but his laugh was full of bitterness, and then he fell silent. In the middle of the night I saw him sitting quietly in the garden, so I walked over and asked, the country is about to fall, are they still fighting each other? In the past few days the assistant Meng Chao has taught me a little about politics, but I still can't understand. He quietly said the interests, corruption and struggles between the big families are deeply rooted and cannot be resolved in a day. I used to think that I saw through them and despised them, so I wouldn't enter the officialdom and would just be a wanderer. But it turns out that there's no such thing as being single-mindedly kind to yourself. Sooner or later you'll have to jump into this mud. I asked again at the end of the road, is there still no way out? He laughed wickedly. If they die, it might not be them. General Kuang also secretly colluded with the prince of the Dat clan. It was said that Tran Kuoktsong had also prepared a boat to escape, bringing back dozens of boxes for the newspaper. The other civil officials were always loyal to the king, but in reality they could not do anything. They either just know how to argue or line up to jump and commit suicide. I thought of a brilliant plan, so, you are good at martial arts, why don't you kill them all? He was amused by me, his heart is really evil. Then he patiently explained in words I could understand, now there is no one to use. The people under their command only listen to them. There are soldiers that only they can mobilize, and money that only they can take out. At least they have not completely surrendered to the enemy. The Great Garden now cannot be solved by killing a few soldiers, it has reached its end. I will not ask anymore, it has reached its end, but why is it still trying so hard? Because he has answered once before. Life is difficult, but it is gradually stabilizing. Truong Meng Chao taught me to read and write, taught me the principles of the great court such as king and subject, father and son. I said, my father always spoke of righteousness and loyalty, but forced my mother to death, then knelt down and surrendered to the military position. Truong Meng Chao immediately replied, my father was the same. My father did not even need a military officer to hold a knife to press the mechanism. My father did not care about living. Hey, the family's numb, nor did he teach us to study, I said. He only wanted to pursue the path of an official. My father, on the other hand, cared about his family, but it did not bring him a living. Hey, the people's pain, Truong Meng Chao replied. In the end, she concluded, it turned out that the so-called loyalty and patriotism of men were all for their own lust for power, and love for the fame and fortune before their eyes. But they still had to put on a righteous and majestic face. Brother Du was not like that, I said. Truong Meng Chao sighed, how many people like that day in this world? In April of the following year, The Dat clan army attacked Qin Chao. The survival of Dai Yuyan depended on this battle, it could not hold out. On the city wall I saw Du Bak Wai, the armor was blurred. Ugh! Pointing at me and Truong Mang Chao. He told the deputy officer to take advantage of the time before the city was surrounded to take the girls out. I said, you come with me. Han replied, I won't go. I said, take Mang Chao away, I won't go. The adjutant was in a hurry, young master, you have to go. My head suddenly hurt, my vision went black and I fell down. While I was unconscious, I still heard the adjutant's voice saying to Du Bai, sorry young master, everyone be quiet, everyone must go. When I woke up, everything was already arranged. The army had captured Jianzhou. Today is the third day of their massacre in the city. The darkness and gloom flow into a river. The emperor of Dayuan was surrounded on a fishing boat while fleeing. He surrendered, kowtowed, surrendered to the army, begged for his life and was granted a fiefdom to live in peace, no longer thinking about his homeland. He was willing to accept the army as legitimate, offered all the country's wealth, the defenses of the undefended cities, and issued an edict to the people of Dayuan not to resist. On the ship full of nobles, everyone bowed their heads in shame, because all the sergeants on board were dead. Upon hearing this news, Du Bai immediately prepared his horses and weapons, wanting to return to the south. I shouted, where are you going? It's all over, you've done your best. Han replied, the emperor has turned the resistance of the Great Yuan into a joke, turning us into cowards and fools. He has done something that makes the army believe that the Great Yuan people were born to be slaves, to live in humiliation and meanness. Du Bai looked at me, then got off his horse, little Onenachai, there is still work to do. I called out stubbornly, Du Bak Wai. Han responded, turning to look at me. Tears fell, I couldn't say anything, just silently took off the jade pendant from his waist. Han looked moved, little Onenachai. I replied softly, he didn't say anything more, just looked at me, his eyes as deep as the starry sky. Then he reached out, gently stroking my hair from afar. I watched his back as he walked towards the mountains and rivers, until he was completely buried in the deep ravine. A few days later, it was said that the young general returned to eat betel. Alone, Han performed a grand ceremony at the foot of the city wall, challenging General Dat, King Li Era Lu to a duel, and set the conditions for a round-robin battle. Han said that for every 10 people he defeated, Dat's army would have to spare the lives of 10,000 people in the city. It is said that he defeated more than 1,000 enemies. It is said that when Du Bak Wai died, the spear pierced his throat. Looking down at the ground, his flesh and blood were all over, revealing his white bones, but he still did not fall. King Lai Nia Lu kept his promise, ordered the soldiers who were killing with all their might, to spare the lives of the hundreds of thousands of people remaining in the city. The people cried for him and also cried for themselves. I originally thought that Du Bak was loyal to the king, but the emperor had already surrendered. I originally thought that he protected the country, but it turned out that the country was the people. I remember the days of famine in the past, people waiting. Oh I asked the heavens if anyone would pity us, people starving like animals? Turns out there is. There was before, there is now. I used to think that the country did not belong to me, but it turns out that my country is not in the hands of nobles, nor in titles, nor in a city or a piece of land. My country is the people who fell before my eyes like flowers being picked. Du Bai's deputy asked where we wanted to go. I peeked at the buffalo's life, she also looked at me, our eyes met. In the calmness there was a will to fight. She said, about Qin Chao. I said, about Qin Chao. Those who came to wait. Hey! You should return to this place was supposed to welcome us. When we returned to Jingzhou, we heard that after the death of the De clan butler, they only killed the madam and Lu Er at the brothel, and then did not pursue any further. It turns out that we are not worth investigating, and that steward is not worth investigating either. We are all just pigs and sheep of different ranks. Du Bai's deputy officer used old connections to create a fake identity for me, and stole my life, becoming the daughter of a small official in the Great Court. The following year, Tru Manggu and I participated in the imperial examination and were selected as palace maids, assigned to serve an unpopular noblewoman. Finally, one day, the emperor came to stay at this noblewoman's palace. The two of them enjoyed flowers and wrote calligraphy, while the palace maids came and went to serve them non-stop. I hid the rope, the buffalo's life hid the knife. Both of us carried chrysanthemums, walked slowly, eyes downcast to hide the fear and killing intent in our hearts. When we were about to get close, a guard suddenly shouted loudly in a tribal accent. I couldn't understand what he said. In a panic I lost all reason. I was at a loss, not knowing whether to kneel down and beg or risk my life to assassinate. Suddenly a majestic and bold scolding voice rang out. You two servants, why don't you quickly go and be punished for bringing the wrong flower? I turned around and saw the second young lady of the Tam family. Now the concubine, dressed in a gorgeous palace dress, leisurely walked towards me. The guards all knelt down and called her the concubine Tam Nuong Nuong. Concubine Tam and I let True Man Chow away. When we returned to her inner palace, Concubine Tam and I knelt down and respectfully said, not knowing what Her Majesty wanted. Concubine Tam spoke few words but meant much, scolding with 2 words, stupid. I bowed my head again, thanking Her Majesty for saving my life. She said again, stupid. I bowed my head again. We wanted to get it back. A single bastard emperor. Miss Tam Ni, we came here to die. She closed her eyes and continued, stupid. I brought my humble life here. I don't know how to read, I don't understand morality, and I don't understand Du Baiyi's words when he talked about making up for small things, trying like fireflies to save a collapsing house. I just felt like I had to do something, and if I did, I had to do the biggest thing. The greatest thing in the clan is that emperor. Kill him and everything will be fine. The second young lady of the Shun family said, you will understand this dark, evil, dark hole, even if the most noble person in the world fills it, it will be useless. From that day on we offended Shenfei, but thanks to that, we often go to Shenfei's palace and receive her teachings. Emperor Dai Vin loved Tam Fai very much. His feelings for her were different from those of the other concubines, as if he was enchanted. The common people of Dai Yuyan scolded Tam Fai as someone who willingly served the enemy, helping the wicked do evil. The people of Dat clan scolded her as a cunning fox with a vicious heart. She ignored everything and discussed with the emperor about calligraphy, chess, calligraphy, and the practice of death penalty. The emperor trusted Shenfei very much, and even discussed political matters with her. It was said that after Jianzhou fell, the southern cities still held out fiercely, and the soldiers on both sides fought until their eyes were red. Prince Borilu sent an urgent letter to the emperor asking whether the massacre should continue. If it continued, the vast land of Nanyuan would turn into a barren wasteland, with millions of corpses piled up, the land barren and the dead dead, and there was even fear of an outbreak of disease. If it stopped, even princely Era Lu would no longer be able to control the situation, and he begged the emperor to issue an order to restrain the remaining generals and soldiers. The army suffered heavy losses, but the wealth of the Jiangnan region made them both greedy and angry to the point of madness. The emperor proposed to stop the massacre and looting, and restore the imperial examination system for the people of the Great Yuan, allowing them to take the imperial examinations. The imperial court was in turmoil. The royal nobles, the meritorious generals of the army were all strongly opposed, and in secret meetings, they argued to the point of shaking the sky. The emperor was furious, slamming his hand on the table. Then what do you want? Kill everyone, rob all the food, eat it all and then go back to herding sheep? We need the people of the Great Garden to cultivate, to trade, to govern themselves. Even if they are pigs and sheep, what good will it be to kill them all? Prince Bodat, the emperor's uncle, stood up and said, yes, your majesty is benevolent. If it weren't for them seeing through your soft heart, would the fierce leaders of the 6 ministries be willing to support you and eliminate all your opponents to put you on the throne? You were afraid of killing your brothers, today you are afraid of killing the common people. Your majesty, you rely on bloodthirsty wolves to seize the country. If you prevent them from sharing the benefits, you will be the next to fall. How terrifying is the Great Garden? Please look to the south. Even when their emperor had surrendered, they still fought to the death. How cunning are the Dayuan people. Even someone like Prince Borilu, who was originally cruel, was persuaded by a Dayuan person to beg for mercy. Even you, your majesty, weren't you also bewitched by a Dayuan woman to the point of losing your soul? Your majesty, if you don't completely massacre this generation of Dayuan people, they absolutely won't submit. Our people's land will not be at peace either. You are not cruel enough, but someone else will do it for you. Your majesty just needs to sit on your throne. After 2 days of arguing, a piece of news broke out that shook the entire court. Tam Fai was pregnant. The officials of the De clan were both angry and panicked, even afraid that the emperor would later establish the son of a person from the De Yuan as the crown prince. To appease the situation, the emperor prepared a banquet in the palace. A few days before the banquet, Xun Fei asked me about my little sister. I replied that she had died from being tortured by the Shen family's mistress. She hesitated, then chuckled softly. Just in time, I had also prepared a big gift for the entire Tam family. I looked up and looked at her in surprise. My short life in the palace had helped me see through the hidden currents of the sea, clothes, and power. She grabbed Zhao Mengzhou's hand again, smiling meaningfully, asking, "Don't you feel like you're like me?" Zhao Mengzhou grabbed her hand tightly, tears welling up in her eyes, and replied, "It's my fortune to resemble your majesty." Xun Fei's hand was hit. "You guys are punished by pulling at your clothes." Her voice was weak and calm, like a flower that would fall with just a slight breeze. Before she left, I smelled a faint scent of medicine lingering on her. That scent was faint but lingering, like something that could never be erased. During the banquet, Xun Fei poisoned herself, killing 2 people with one love. At the same time, she used poison to kill more than 10 princes and generals attending the banquet, including the emperor's uncle, brother, Bingyu, and the emperor's guards. No one expected that Xun Fei could be so crazy. She raised the cup of poison that the emperor had given her, step by step inviting everyone to join in. No one could imagine that someone could plan to perish together right in front of the emperor. The court fell into chaos, and the emperor followed suit, crazily hugging Xun Fei's body. With her last breath, she revealed her love and stabbed deep into the emperor's heart. "The cruelty that your majesty could not do, I will do for you. You do not need to endure any more threats. I understand your ambition, talent, and kindness." Under pressure from public opinion in the imperial court, the emperor ordered the entire family of the magistrate to be exterminated. After that, the imperial court only stopped the massacre in the city and restored the imperial examination system, which was gradually implemented with harsh but decisive measures. 70% of the veteran princes and generals who relied on favors and merit to gain power died. The rest were young and incompetent. With the strong support of Prince Ingku, the emperor gradually gained control of the court. To balance the conflict and make management more convenient, the emperor allowed the use of slavery instead of killing when conquering the remaining cities of Nanyuan. The tribal soldiers built barricades, rounded up slaves, divided up the land and local shops, and then brought back the chained slaves to their homeland to farm and trade. They were still lowly creatures like pigs and sheep, but at least they were alive. And living was the best thing in the world. 3 years after the death of concubine Shun, Zhao Mengzhou was appointed as a concubine. Zhao Mengzhou began to imitate concubine Shun's appearance, discussing with the emperor about poetry, music, chess, calligraphy, painting, and studying the classics and history. She used sweet words and beauty to convince the emperor to use the imperial court as a person of the imperial court, and to reintroduce the official system of the old imperial court. When she was pregnant, the empress cut off the special concubines who fought for her favor, and accused her of poisoning her food. The evidence the empress presented was extremely convincing. The entire court, already dissatisfied with the emperor's continued favor for Tru Mengchao, turned even more hateful eyes towards her. Under the pressure of public opinion, even though the emperor wanted to protect her with all his heart, he could not easily turn the situation around. I stood up, took all the blame, and admitted that I was the one who poisoned him. The emperor took this opportunity to put all the blame on me, protecting Tru Mengchao's innocence. The empress was furious and immediately demanded that I be executed. As I was being dragged away, Zhao Mengzhou fell to the ground, pregnant, and begged the emperor to spare my life. The emperor waved his hand and left, but she continued to kowtow, until her forehead was covered in blood. I struggled, trying to hold on to her. This time I grabbed the hem of her shirt that was covered with gold threads. I softly said, "Tru Mengchao, I won't let anything happen to you." She cried and promised me I will. "We will definitely complete what we have to do." I shook my head, looked at her and smiled. No, it was for her. She gave me a golden phoenix needle. I gave her back a life of trash. We, these fragile lives, drift like duckweed in times of chaos. In times of peace we are as light as blades of grass. Even though we suffer in the fields, as long as we have one last breath, we must try to live on. Throughout our lives we have witnessed our loved ones wandering and leaving this world one by one, to the point that dying for someone we care about has become a kind of happiness. In the palace's chamber, the Empress used all kinds of punishments to force me to tell the truth, even breaking my legs. But I just gritted my teeth and insisted that it was all my fault. The Empress scolded me, not understanding why I had become so reckless with life and death. I smiled and replied, "Your Majesty, don't you know? People like me are the ones who value life the most. I thought I would definitely die." A few months later, Tru Mangchao gave birth to a prince, and the emperor was overjoyed. The Empress, even though she was the daughter of a noble family and had been pampered since childhood, was not cruel enough to take my life. When Tru Mangchao rescued me, I even saluted the Empress, thanking her for not taking my life. I saw the prince give birth, and also received news from the front line. The last castle of the Great Garden on the island has been destroyed. The Great Garden has completely collapsed. One royal afternoon ends, another royal afternoon begins. Under the pile of white bones we still survived, like buffaloes and horses, like floating duckweed, like weeds that were burned but not completely burned, like barley flowers that fell and then stood up again. Beside me now there was only one Tru Mangchao. I became a gentle old maid, managing the palace, building fences everywhere, and seeing the invisible cracks that still remained on my clothes. When it rained, Tru Mangchao and I would often walk under the trees. She held my legs and I held her scarred arms. Every day, I hung the jade pendant of Dubok Y beside the rose. The peace and good world that he had once wished for, in the end, could not be achieved. But when the moonlight and gentle breeze blew by, the earth was still like a giant beast with a broken spine, breathing slowly but powerfully. Even though the sound of invasion in the sky still resounded, people still had to continue living.